reign. Okay, Samuel Mercoli asks, what's your stance on abortion, and what's your thoughts on Hendrick's impairment argument, as well as Don Marquise's future deprivation argument? Oh, goodness. Okay, so you really want me to say controversial stuff, don't you? Okay, so we can distinguish between the legal and the moral questions surrounding abortion. My answer will focus only on the moral question, okay? So whether it's morally permissible or impermissible. So I don't have settled views about cases of rape, so I'm going to set that aside. That issue is probably over my pay grade. I try to do metaphysics and philosophy of religion, so ethics is a little bit beyond my pay grade, but I'll try. So in cases where the mother's life is threatened, I do think it's permissible to perform a procedure which is foreseen but not intended to result in the death of the fetus, and that saves the mother's life. Okay, now what about non-rape cases and cases where the mother's life is not in danger? Okay, so now we're into the controversy. So I lean towards the pro-life view. There are lots of reasons for this. One reason being that I find it difficult to pinpoint a morally relevant difference between a fetus and, say, a newborn that would justify the killing of one and not the other. Yes, the debates here are complex, people. I mean, I'm just scratching the surface. I've been told that David Hirschnoff's paper, If Abortion, Then Infanticide, is an excellent article in this regard. On the morally relevant difference between killing fetuses and killing newborns, for instance. And I take it that it's obvious that infanticide is morally wrong, and so if there's no morally relevant difference between them, then we have a good case against abortion, at least in non-rape cases and cases where the mother's life is not in danger. So, again, like I said, I've been told that that's a good paper. I haven't read it yet, though, and I hope to read it in due time, so don't kill me for that. There are also other reasons, too, of course. So, for instance, I think that there are prudential reasons. So if we aren't certain that a fetus isn't a person, which arguably we shouldn't be certain about that. I mean, given that this judgment rests on like massively contested metaphysical and moral views, then it seems impermissible on grounds of prudence to kill the fetus. So imagine that you and your friend are out in the forest and you guys are hunting bears. And so you got your rifles and everything. You're hiding in this bush here, and your friend is maybe 15 yards to the right of you. He's hiding in a bush as well. You've both got your rifles, and you know that bears have been around in this area, and they've been lurking in some of these bushes as well, and so on. Now, suppose that your friend, after a few hours of hunting these bears, or like, you know, just sitting in the bush waiting for some bear to come, suppose your friend needs to go to the bathroom. So he leaves for the bathroom, and, you know, you're just going to pause. You're not going to hunt without him, so you just listen to some music, and then maybe after 10 minutes or so, you hear some ruffling back near, maybe in the general vicinity of where your friend was supposed to be. It didn't quite sound like it was exactly where your friend was, but it was pretty close. And, you know, it's been long enough for your friend to come back from the bathroom. And so you take out your earbuds and you still hear some ruffling. And you know that this is your perfect opportunity to kill a bear, because if this is a bear, right, this is a golden opportunity. He's right there. The bear is right there. You can hear, if it is a bear indeed, the bear's right there. You can hear it, and you have a nice shot. It's just 15 yards away or so. But, you know, it's been enough time to the point where your friend, like, probably had enough time to get back using the restroom. I mean, you know, maybe your friend isn't back yet. And although it's not exactly in the position where your friend was supposed to be, it's still in the general vicinity. So it's like, you think that it's a bear, but you're not entirely certain. Should you point your rifle that way and just shoot? I don't think so. I think that would be far too hasty. There's a reasonable enough chance that it's your friend in this scenario that I've described. There's enough epistemic doubt that it's your friend that on prudential grounds, you shouldn't shoot in that direction. So even if you end up shooting and killing a bear, I think you shouldn't have shot in that case because of the risk, albeit perhaps even small, that it was your friend. On prudential grounds, if you aren't like reasonably certain that that is your friend there, that you would be killing, if you're not reasonably certain in that, well, then I think it'd be immoral on prudential grounds to shoot whatever's ruffling the bushes over there. And so similarly, if we aren't absolutely certain, or we aren't reasonably certain that the fetus isn't a person, well, then that seems to be like the bear case. It seems like on prudential grounds, it would be immoral to kill the fetus, just because there's some kind of chance that it's a person, and it would be extremely morally wrong to commit murder in that case. So that's a kind of prudential argument. Obviously, there are responses, and again, I'm not here to make a video on abortion. I'd look through like the dialectical context. I'd look through different responses that thinkers have leveled. I'd look at the literature in this. You know, obviously, I'm just giving a sketch of some of the reasons why I lean towards a pro-life position. One of them was on the morally relevant differences point. Another one is prudential reasons. Now, I know that I've been saying some extremely controversial things here that will upset a lot of you, but I hope you can at least respect my position and that, I'm a reflective, empathetic person who deeply cares about getting the issues right. And I don't claim that those who disagree with me are irrational or uninformed. And indeed, ethics isn't my area of specialty, so I have to hold my views with requisite epistemic humility. Anyway, as for Perry Hendricks' argument, so it's funny, Perry is a fellow Boilermaker, that is someone who attends Purdue University. I see him like once a week in like either Panera or Chick-fil-A on campus, so that's great. But I'm not sure I find his particular argument here convincing. Now, it's been a while since I've looked into it, but I have heard of some of Justin Crumit's criticisms, and they have sounded reasonably plausible to me. But I'd probably have to think about it further. And I'm similarly unsure about Marquise's argument. I mean, I guess my general reservations for the arguments are that when we're criticizing an argument, we have to think about the perspective of someone who doesn't antecedently accept the position being argued for. So if I put on a pro-choice hat, what I'm going to be thinking is that, well, there's going to be a kind of relevant difference between impairment of a fetus by means of, for instance, fetal alcohol syndrome and whatnot, versus abortion. And the relevant difference is that in the case of the mother drinking alcohol or smoking or whatever, if she goes on to have the child, right, that is doing something. Of course, when the fetus, because I have my pro-choice hat on, remember, when I'm saying all this, the fetus isn't the person early on when the mother's drinking and smoking. The mother is nevertheless doing something that is very, very probably going to eventually harm and cause great suffering to someone. And it's precisely in virtue of that. It's precisely in virtue of the fact that she's doing something right now that will very likely go on to cause harm and suffering to someone who's actually a person and who can consciously experience that. It's precisely because of that that the drinking and the smoking are wrong in the early stages. But by contrast, that's not present in the case of abortion, at least early term or whatever. Because again, with my pro-choice hat on, the fetus isn't a person in those early stages, and so ending the life of the fetus, it couldn't be for the same reason that is wrong, that it is wrong for the mother to drink alcohol and smoke. Because in the latter case, right, it's precisely because you are doing something that will eventually go on to harm and cause suffering to a person. But in the case of abortion, you're not doing something that is going to cause harm and eventually cause suffering to someone who is a person. Instead, you are preventing her from being the person in the first place. So, I mean, obviously, Perry is not unaware of this criticism, and I would argue that the pro-choicer will say the exact same thing to Don Marquise, right? Deprivation is arguably only something bad if there's someone there who's being deprived. You're not even depriving anyone because it's not a person to begin with. Again, with my pro-choice hat on, there's not a person there, and so ending the life is not depriving some person of goods. Again, it's arguably precisely because I am a person right now that killing me right now is depriving me of certain goods that I would have. But the fetus isn't a person to be deprived of goods. You might be preventing certain goods from accruing to a person that might exist in the future, but that's not wrong, right? I mean, right now, am not engaging in intercourse with someone, and thereby, I am currently, right now, depriving some kind of future person of their experiences, because if I were having intercourse, I could conceive of someone. So, but yeah, that's not wrong. My not having intercourse right now is not wrong. So it's like, it seems to me that you would already antecedently have to have a person there who you are depriving of goods. And it seems as though that is precisely why the deprivation is wrong. But if you don't antecedently have the person, I don't see why there's anything wrong there. And again, I'm doing all this with my pro-choice hat on, and again, I know that Don Marquise is not unaware of this criticism, and I know that Perry Hendricks is not unaware of this criticism. So, yes, you can go back and forth, and they have responses, and arguably there are going to be responses to those responses, and so on. I'm just voicing some of my reservations and why I'm not entirely convinced by their argument. This